Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Shield Hero Weekly. I'm Digibro, and with me, as always, is the best guy of all time.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Sorry we're late, but better late than never.
Yeah, well, you work a full-time job, and
True.
I fall asleep early sometimes. So,
Indeed,
you know,
indeed.
we can't always be on time.
Well,
Give us more money on Patreon so we can, I don't know.
Indeed, just
cares?
have that around.
Just do it.
Just for more
Yeah.
security. Feels good. Of course, that'll probably just increase our hunger, but that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, we're insatiable. So just
Indeed.
like the shield used by the Tate no Yusha, who Nariagari is in this episode. What'd you think of today's episode of Shield Hero? Pretty emotional one.
Yes, I think I said this about the last one. Thinking back to last episode of The Raid, I liked it less the more I thought about it than my initial impression of being generally positive. But this one, I tried to keep, based on feedback, I am actually trying to do less referencing to the manga. I feel that there were some things that were not quite as great. But okay, I'm trying to do less of that. The point is, I did like the episode quite a bit. That was quite good. At least most of it. Most of it.
I mean, it's kind of amazing because I remember, I think this is almost as far as I got in the manga. Like, this is the last thing I really remember happening, is everything in this episode. So, you know, this is why, like, when people were like, "Oh, spoilers!" in the first episode when we did our first one, I was like, "Guys, I've only read like 6
I
chapters.
think with this episode,
nothing I say is a major spoiler."
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true. That's true. We've covered most of the major spoilers now that this episode has passed, I think. So that's good. That's a burden off our shoulders.
Right. So, yeah, like, it's kind of incredible that, like, this show has always had, like, big events every episode. It's never felt like there was ever a waste of time or, like, an episode just went by and we didn't learn anything or have anything happen.
Yep.
You know, this episode had a couple of big reveals, which I guess we'll go through just one at a time. First one that comes into my head is the fact that the spoiler that we were most accosted for that I revealed that the one girl's the fucking princess.
Yes. I think her name is actually Melty and that it isn't mine. That was like a pseudonym. I'm not quite sure, but Melty the princess, that's her. Yep.
So immediately upon learning this, our hero is like, okay, so I was being set up all along.
Which is understandable for him to think. Yeah.
Right. And that was where, you know, it led me reading the manga to, like, further speculation, like, okay, the plot thickens, you know, why is this guy being set up? It's
That's
like
a good question.
I'm a fan of, I very famously hate mystery shows for the way that they string you along, but this show, what I like about it is that rather than, like, just raising a question, it's like it raises more questions through revealing answers. Like, it wasn't like we were constantly being fed, like, we didn't know that there was, like, any reason to even think this woman had a more mysterious identity. We just thought it was some woman who fucked him over for some reason. But now that we know this, it's like, okay, this tells us more about the character, so we feel like we've gained something, but it also raises a greater mystery. Why is the princess and the king trying to fuck over the shield hero so badly?
And I was going to say, insofar as this is a mystery, it successfully does what a story like that should do, in that situation of, I mean, he's in a situation where he is being discriminated against for reasons he does not understand, or, you know, like, he doesn't understand or know or anything like that. So the mystery there puts him in a position that is uniquely, I mean, that's the point of the character, to, like, be confused and feel discriminated against for reasons completely out of his control. I mean, that's kind of the point of the series. And so it puts him in the same position as, like, the demi-humans, who we hear more racist talk of in this episode. So yeah, it's all packaged together pretty well. It's the best case scenario for something like that, I'd say.
Now, I know you are much more aware of the story going forward, but so you don't have to answer the speculation at all. But my speculation is that it is precisely because the shield hero is the hero of the people, and that he would, like, most likely his existence will always fly in the face of something like slavery as a system. And, like, that the king and his reasoning for hating the shield hero is that it will ultimately, you know, cause problems for the power base of the kingdom. Like, this is a guy who could cause a proletariat uprising. You know?
I won't comment. You know, actually, some people were saying in comments, like sort of what is the underlying point or the underlying reasons for that discrimination. When I saw those, I did go do some digging, and then it came flooding back to me what that is. I won't share that, obviously, but like you're relatively correct that there is some stuff going on there where he is a destabilizing force, and
because I mean, it's explicit that in Raphtalia's backstory, she was told a story about the Shield hero being a friend of the people. So it's like, well, obviously that's going to be a problem for a fucking monarch, you know, like a obviously corrupt monarch.
If you've got a society that's racist against demihumans, you don't want the person who, you know, cares about him, who's one of your legendary heroes, you know, being around fucking that up at the very least. Right. At the very least.
But that's also what leads us into the second interesting reveal that I'd kind of forgotten about, which is that the other heroes maybe not so utter shitbags after all.
Yes, this is where we finally see some glimmers of hope for the other heroes, the sword and bow guy at least. Oh, that felt so good. Oh, it felt good to see.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I guess you can still accost them for the fact that they just ignorantly went along with whatever was told to them, basically. But it's clear that at the very least, in the presence of evidence to the contrary of what they've heard, they are willing to think it through, you know.
That's absolutely true. And so, you know, I was thinking about that as well. To be fully charitable, the other heroes were presented with not just like an accusation by Melty or Mine or whatever, but they actually brought in evidence, like her like torn gown or whatever from Naofumi's bedroom that was planted, but it was there and certainly added to the case. And so that was a large part of convincing the relatively agnostic bow guy, like the spear guy, definitely presented as like what do they call him? They call him a useful idiot, who just kind of a white knight kind of guy who will, you know, just whatever, believe what.
I think it's more even than that he's just like a fame chaser. That like he just maybe not fame so much as just like he is relishing in this high life that they are, you know, just throwing at his feet.
Well, that's
so,
definitely
like, why
true.
would it's like he's not going to bite the hand that feeds, you know?
That's
like,
absolutely true. And that also ties into, I mean, we're kind of jumping to the themes, but that's fine. Like when later on, after the tournament and the thing happened, I guess, I don't know, they fucking dissolve the slave contract of Raphtalia, and she says that, you know, like, I wanted to be with this guy, and he can't even understand. Wait, shit. I lost track of my original point. I forget what got me to this point. I know it had something to do.
Notes.
I wasn't looking at my notes. God damn it! I was doing it off the top of my damn head.
Shit.
Okay, well, you know, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it later. In any case, I mean, I mean, I don't know. Should we just jump to like more of these event stuff and then just go through it?
I mean, jump to whatever you want. You've got notes. I'm going off the top of my head from having watched the episode 8 hours ago. So.
Okay, fair enough. So the episode starts to get into like this is a good episode to go point by point, because the first thing that happens is that it opens with them celebrating their victory over the raid, and it like there's like a party going on. Right. The other heroes are being celebrated. That's all cool. Now Fumi's off, you know, sulking in the corner, you know, brooding and whatnot. You know, even right then we see him like thinking about ways he could have strategized to like save more people or like optimize. He's like, oh, there was a teleport spell. I could have like brought in people with me to like help fight, even if it was just like soldiers or whatever. So he's already thinking about like the next thing he's got to do, while the other knights are just like partying. Again, this shows his like difference of thought pattern. Then we see Mine whispers to Spearboy, telling him that, hey, did you know that Raphtalia is his slave? They were not aware of this fact till now. So that right there was, again, Mine going out of her way to cause problems for Naofumi, even though slavery is legal. You know, it's not.
It's kind of interesting at this point, because I really didn't expect the other heroes to come around so early into the story. Just because, like, ultimately not that much of a case has really been stacked against Naofumi. Like, the two things that these guys were also offended by was that he supposedly assaulted this girl, and
that's a capital crime. He would have been executed already if he wasn't, like, a hero.
But, like, now that they know, like, now that Raphtalia has given her big speech, and they clearly they clearly are like, okay,
it.
well, yeah, like we see what's happening here. And then the fact that mine like cheats in this match, and it's like, well, this throws your entire credibility and the king's credibility into question, you know?
Yep.
So then it's just like, well, shit, like that's the whole case uprooted right there. So these guys at this point,
you're not wrong.
Basically just have to make a decision. Who do they think they trust now? And like, there's one person they know that they can't trust because they know that the king and mine helped out in this. They don't know that Naofumi did anything. So like, he's kind of looking like the more trustworthy guy now.
That is a pretty fair assessment. Yeah. So I guess I want to get into it, but like, because that kind of happens at the end. But the arc we go through in this episode is good and has plot ramifications going forward. But as you were saying, it's like, so when Spearman finds out that she's the slave, he challenges Naofumi to a duel. And so they have the cool hero on hero duel, and it's first of all, it was pretty cool. It was cool to see new double dog head shield ability. That was dope.
Yeah.
We see him, I mean, just handily. We see a couple of like generic different attacks from Spear Guy. Weren't particularly interesting like the shield guys are.
I would say that this show, like, it doesn't necessarily have the best action choreography. It doesn't necessarily have the best action animation. But the design work of all the shield powers is good. Like, it's memorable stuff.
Which I suppose is fair to give credit to, like, the manga and the light novel for. Yeah.
But like, I think about when I was a kid, like, what would have jumped out to me about, like, special powers is, like, the specificity of them. Like, no, well, I shouldn't even say as a kid, it's still the same today, but that's where I go back to, is like what endures with me long term. Like, what are the powers and skills I still remember? It's not so much like how they actually work in combat so much as like the unique aesthetic of like a cool sword and like what does its power do, and also it looks good, you know?
I mean, like even in I shouldn't skip over it. It's sometimes tough to put myself back as if this was my first experience, but like I remember being super stoked because like he pulls out this double dog head shield, and of course thinking back, he must have unlocked that by killing that fucking double-headed dog thing with Raphtalia like several episodes ago. And now, well, what the fuck do you know? It's its own little shield. What a cool way to like remember that event.
We've got this constant building on things we've seen. Like all the old powers come back in this fight, and then there's new ones, but they're not out of nowhere. It feels like, indeed. Oh yeah, this has a logical basis, and then we have the unlocking of the curse path in this shield.
Yes.
Which I assume it's kind of unclear at this point exactly what was going on with
nothing
Naofumi
is shown.
That he couldn't understand, like that he didn't perceive Raphtalia as an adult.
Okay, I mean, I want to talk about that because that was I had to go back. I didn't check the fucking light novel, but I went back and looked at the manga. Okay, everything we said in that other episode about like her being young or like old, or I think you were actually right the whole time because he is quite explicit. That I had to go back and look at a bunch of this because there are just scenes, straight up scenes in this episode where she just clearly is a little girl. Like everyone is responding to her like she's short. Mine like looks down at her. They're like walking around with her because they've got her. You know, they're holding her aside while they have the duel to set her free or not. And then at the end, Naofumi, like after whatever he gets redeemed or whatever, he just is like, oh. Who are you? You're big all of a sudden. She was big at the beginning of the episode. The
only part where I remember her being small was from his perspective. Is what I thought it was implying. Like he was looking at saw her like get the curse removed and then walk away, and like I had the impression that was supposed to be his sight, and they kind of made it like it was like the colors were all desaturated and stuff, and she was wearing her old clothes. So it's like he's not only has he thought she was a kid, but he's still perceiving her as how she was when he first pulled her out of the cage. Which doesn't even make sense, really, because how the fuck would he not have noticed her armor not showing up on her body?
I know, it doesn't make sense. But, okay, this ties into something else. This whole food metaphor, right, of, like, him not being able to taste any food ever since, like, his trauma in the first episode or whatever. that doesn't have any actual explanation for like why that happened. This isn't there's no log horizon like rules as to like food has no taste.
That detail. I didn't notice that he couldn't taste.
Yeah, I mean, he actually doesn't comment in this, but in previous episodes he has said as much, and in the manga they explain a little more, but not to bring that back in. But then at the end of the episode, after he's been saved, the whole point of the narrative of this episode is that he goes through his dark moment. Raphtalia, even though having been freed from her slave curse, says, "I will stand by you. Like, I won't betray you. Like, you can trust me. I'll be with you to the end because I care about you legitimately. I'm not just being forced to be here. I want to do this." When he feels trust, when he feels that someone is actually worthy of his trust, who he, really feels is on his side, that calms his darkness, that calms his rage, and he feels, I think, the first happiness since that first episode, first legitimate positive feelings. And then at the end of the episode,
he's always wanted to hear from someone.
Exactly. That's what he really wanted, that connection. And then at the end of the episode, he takes a bite of some food that she brings him, and he can now taste it. Okay, so there is no...
And that brings us to my favorite anime trope of all time.
Yeah?
When a character takes a bite of a piece of food and cries immediately.
He did do that.
This happens... I don't know how many people are aware of this.
Uh-huh.
This happens hundreds of times in anime. It's like a massive trope, and I've always wanted to like try to document it, but it would just be such an undertaking.
I can think of a few. Yeah.
The most famous example is probably in Spirited Away, when Haku takes her out into the garden and gives her bread, and she starts eating and just bawling the big Ghibli tears.
Ghibli tears.
Yeah, and like it happens just all the time, and I don't know where it originates or like if it's a Japanese culture thing, if it's just like it was in like some famous thing and then everybody copied it, because I'm sure it was around before Spirited Away, but like it's just such a persistent trope, and I love it because I agree with it. Like I've had those feels,
The crying specifically, I don't know what might have been the origin for that, but like I think back to my agonizing read through of the entirety of Fate Stay Night and all the cooking scenes, and it just makes me think that like those Japs sure do love to eat together and like hang out and have meals. And I'm like, maybe it's just like a togetherness
I think it's just
thing.
That they think of eating as like particularly human. Actually, this kind of happens with Sanji too.
I was thinking of Sanji.
In the backstory. Yeah, like I think it's just that they think of eating as such a like deeply humanistic experience that like that would be the moment when you're like at your most core and animalistic almost. It's like. And, like, eating good food can release emotions in you because of even just, like, chemical reasons, It's like, maybe they just think of it as, like, you take that bite and then it takes your guard down. That's also a thing in Naruto, in one of the early, chapter 2 of Naruto, he says that Sasuke only has his guard down when he's eating, and it makes me wonder if that's like just a Japanese idea that like when you're eating your guard is down.
I don't even remember that, but fair enough, maybe.
Because he tries to attack Sasuke in episode 2 and ends up kissing him on accident.
Oh right, okay, fair enough. I do remember that. Jack's dick. But my point about that was just to say that. So that whole specifically in this case, there is no logical reason that we're aware of why he can't taste food and then suddenly does when he's had this emotional healing at the end of the episode. But that's fine. And I feel like the thing about Raphtalia is clearly an adult. There are weird hints that he doesn't perceive her that way, including more blatant ones in this episode, even though she definitely is. And in fact, she goes on to explain in this episode, I thought this was supposed to explain why he saw that, but she says here, no, when we're young, we demihumans, when we level up, we age. So, okay, that has nothing to do with this whole why he perceived her as young, except for perhaps that she just got old fast.
I assume it's some kind of curse, because he starts to perceive her correctly after he unlocks the curse chain. It's like
true.
He sees her. It says like he sees the overlay that says like your seal over this slave has been broken.
Yeah.
And then he just buries his face. And then like it says curse tree unlocked, but he doesn't look up for 5 fucking minutes of episode. And then when he finally does look up, he sees her. So I just assume that moment is when whatever was fucking with him went away. Maybe they're gonna explain it in the next episode.
Dude, I'm telling you, they won't. I don't like. There are scenes of him.
Do they explain it in the manga?
No,
novels?
No, absolutely not. And I double checked
Okay.
in there to see if there's any further explanation as to what. Like, this is all we get in terms of what's going on here. I mean, I think it's equally nonsensical to the food thing. It's just a metaphor, and like, we get it. He doesn't perceive her as like, she's not like a real person to him, man. She's like, just this tool, and it's only after he finally understands that she really cares for him that then he sees her as like the woman that she is now, dude. I mean, that's what I think. There's no confirmation.
You said you didn't go all the way back to the light novel, right?
I did not read the light novel from this
if
one.
If anybody's read the light novels, please explain this to us.
Yeah, let us know.
You're probably already typing your comment, but please explain this to us in the comments, because I'm almost certain that I've read something about an explanation of this. Like,
yeah.
I had thought it was just in the manga, but again, this is so many fucking years ago that I read this shit that I don't...
Right.
I don't know what information... I found out about it from A, so like there's a good chance that people were talking about the light novel there, even at the time.
Well, no
What were you
matter.
about to say?
I was just going to say, the good news is I think your cut section from the last episode or whatever, I think is at least somewhat vindicated. I think you were sort of on the right track, at least a little bit, more than I thought at least. Things are not as straightforward as I thought with this whole... The good news is we're past it now. We can put it in the rearview mirror. This should not be relevant ever again for the rest of the series, thank God.
So there's some great emotional scenes in this episode.
I was going to say that. This is I think... this I will definitely say this was the most punished that Naofumi has felt so far, and I truly got it. I think for the first time.
I'm like almost concerned that this show will cause a school shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
The moment when Naofumi, like when he like cracks and he says this world should just break, and like all the like purple swirls out of him, and you can hear the downward spiral in your brain, and you're just like, this is the moment when you kill everyone around you. Like,
you're not wrong, but did you? That's the thing. But that you're absolutely right about that. But I mean, the point of the narrative, and as we see, it just takes a little bit of kindness. It takes one person to I mean, the problem is when you've got like, your Elliot Rogers who just don't have
just
that.
an anime. She's never gonna come to me.
You know what I hear?
Therefore, I need to punish all of the fucking normies.
I remember talking to Hypocrite when we were both watching Welcome to the NHK, and Hypocrite. Hopefully, this isn't too personal or anything, but like Hypocrite felt like he liked it in general. Like, he only watched episode 1, I think, but like he was just mad at the show because like, and I felt this to a degree as well. Like, when you watch that show, obviously it's a sad, depressed, lonely man who doesn't know how to save himself. And in the show, like, a girl just basically magically, by pretty crazy coincidence, shows up in his life and is like, I'm a cute girl, I'm gonna save you from being sad and alone. And then they have, relatively realistic for anime, like, depression adventures trying to, like, help him.
I mean, the thing is about that
let me just finish my point. It's just that, that basically does not happen ever in real life.
No,
and it feels, to people who are like sad and alone, as at least Gib felt at that particular time, it's just like a slap in the face that anime says, just wait for your princess to save you, bro, because it's not going to happen.
For what it's worth, like, and the anime still goes through with this, but you don't feel it as much because they spend so much time together. Like, part of the point is to subvert it. That, like, she shows up to
she's not really an angel or anything, as we find out.
Right, it turns out that she's all fucked up too, and she doesn't really help him, and they don't exactly have a relationship or anything, and in the novel this is even more pronounced because they don't even really meet that many times. Like, it's not like they're hanging out fucking constantly like they are in the anime. So but even still, it is a little much. Which, I mean, it has to be for you to have
that's
a
the
story
conceit of the
tell.
show. Right, obviously. So I'm not going to hold it against it too much. But like, when you are, like, that Elliot Rodger, shield hero, potential school shooter kid, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess it's kind of the trope of the disposable male that, like, the world just doesn't. That's why men are the ones who fucking do this shit. They just feel hopeless and like there's nothing there. And I mean, that's a big concern for me just about the world. I mean, I'm not fucking volunteering to help these kids, but I'd like to in some way.
I'm watching this show with May, and she was watching it. She was like, this show is giving me trust issues.
Oh,
she was just like, I can't, like, because, and I was watching it, and I'm just like, well, this show just represents all the trust issues I already have.
Fair enough.
Like, this is exactly how I already feel about the world, is that it's just a constant fuckery of people. What I love about it is that it is a conspiracy. It is
correct.
Ultimately like, and that's also what makes it hopeful in a way, is that like, yes, there are people conspiring against you. However, you can also conspire. You know,
that's
and
a fun take to have on it.
Yeah, well, that's how you got to look at it. It's like, okay, everybody's out to get me. Everybody's trying to fuck with me. Yeah. Well, like, what can I do? I just got to build my own camp. I just got to go to war with this world, you know? And like, he's in a position where he just feels so defeated in this episode, like, you know, because he loses Raphtalia, and that was the only thing he had. And like, even though he has no real reason to assume that she's just gonna abandon him, he just at this point he's got no trust.
Hopeless. Why would he assume that she would stay with him if he's not forcing her to?
So, particularly after seeing the whole crowd, like the fact that he knows that people saw that girl cheat.
Right, that's the thing, and still no one said anything, despite.
And it's just
that's
like,
why we live in a society.
Victory.
That's that's the moment.
Live in a society.
And yet the society betrayed him. That's what happened this episode.
Right. And so it's like I have felt that feeling of just like that crushing, like, oh my God, like there is no victory. Like no matter what I do, there's always another thing. There's always another thing that's trying to, you know, that's blocking my way. But then, you know, when Raphtalia sort of, you know, opens her heart to him, not that her heart was closed, but like when she just like pours out everything and he finally is able to see it, it's like, the tide has turned. Because as long as you have hope, as long as you have that feeling that you can make your own team and do your own thing and make your own kingdom, you could take that as far as you want. You know?
I mean,
take that as far as you're comfortable with. You could become a fucking revolutionary if you really want to.
Sure,
you know?
or whatever you need to do, I guess. But I mean, that was the thing. It's like, even after, so he watches her, he loses the duel due to the cheating of mine. If that wasn't clear already for people who haven't watched the fucking show. Yeah. He enters this duel, he is winning. He is going to win. He is kicking ass despite being, I looked at it, he's like 22 levels below shield hero, or a spear hero. He still manages to win through trickery and genius and all that shit. He's fucking gonna win the day, and then mine, that fucking cheating whore, blasts him again, and he gets, you know, lightning speared while his guard's down. And then they because he quote unquote lost the duel, they sever the slave seal on fucking Raphtalia. And in that moment, and even though they like let her go, she runs to Naofumi and she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna stay with you." This was the most painful moment for me in this episode was when she was free to run to him and she's trying to come close to him, saying like, no, I still want to be with you. He himself is like, no. Do not touch me. You have betrayed me just by severing this connection, by being part of that. You have betrayed my trust. I don't want you here. I can't trust anyone. And even as she's saying the words, I want to be with you. Like, I care about you. I trust you. You can trust me. He will not believe it. And that, I feel like that is, I think, something that a lot of people really have in the real world. And that's the real shit going on here. But you know.
The fact that she just keeps pushing through it. Like, I've seen other anime present this moment where that character bows their head and walks away.
That's what makes a villain right there. That's what makes the difference sometimes between someone becoming a villain or staying a hero. It's somebody not willing to give up on them. And it's really heartwarming to see. It's a great fucking moment.
These two characters are both so lovable because, in Naofumi's case, like, I felt for him, especially in this episode, because he came off as weak and pathetic. Watching him be like, the way he's like rejecting Raphtalia's attempts to, like, you know, tell him like, hey, I do. It's like, if it weren't for the fact that she was so strong about it, then, you know, she would have been pushed away.
Yep.
But like, it just, I felt that, you know, I was like, you know, as much as I would not be this guy, I completely believe it, you know, like, go with all that he's been through, like,
exactly, yeah. Considering all in such a short period of time, all these, like, you're a fucking neat living in your house, all of a sudden you meet some hot fantasy babes, betrayal. You meet other people, betrayal. Everyone hates you. You're the evil person in the world. You're trying to fight for them, and they still don't treat you with any respect. They call you a rapist. I can't even imagine.
But it's very believable that Raphtalia would not move on this issue, because it's like in other shows, if it was just like two friends, let's say, you know, and one friend is pissed at the other friend and is like, oh, just leave me alone, you don't really trust me, that friend might walk away. But Raphtalia was, as she put it herself, a diseased slave on the verge of death.
Indeed.
Everything good in her life has come from this guy.
That's why.
So she's like, there's nowhere else I'm going to, like, I don't have another place to go. I don't have, like, there's nothing more important to me than this. Like,
it shouldn't be undercut.
You can tell me this 1,000 times, but, like, where am I going to go except for
everything good that Raphtalia does for Naofumi and to Naofumi is a direct reciprocation of the basically love he's poured into caring for her and helping her. So he's just reaping what he's sowed. This is what when you put good things onto people, you know, obviously this is like the best case scenario, but they will be returned to you in when you fucking need them. And that's what, so it's not like this just like he buys a slave and oh, now she's his for life. It's not like that at all. She was free. She could have done anything. It's because he showed her the compassion and the love, and it just gets reciprocated, and it's beautiful.
Another thing I love, Raphtalia, when she gets indignant at the spear hero, I love that they gave her so much dialogue. Yeah. That, like, it's not just like she admonishes him, she gives like she cuts a promo on this dude.
She does.
Like,
she does.
And when she says straight up, she's like, if you were capable of what he is capable of, you would have slaves in your party. Like,
that line made me laugh.
That line is funny, but like it's funny because of the fact that we have the context of knowing that Naofumi, like, he didn't come to her because he's some great benevolent man. He came to her out of desperation. However, like, nonetheless, you know, if there was a great benevolent man who recognized the state of things in this country, then they would have maybe done that. Like, they would have seen that there was this slavery problem, and they might have gone and said, well, fuck, I can do more for this person by enslaving them than I could by you know, by leaving them here. And like in Naofumi's case, he tries to tell her, like, look, I viewed you as just a tool. Like, I didn't, like, you're ascribing this noble purpose to what I've done, but it wasn't like that. I was just using you. And she's like, look, I mean, be that as it may, you are not that person currently. You've done all these things for me. Like, you did
from
the
start.
So,
from the start, he cared for her and was kind to her. So
he was never abusive, never
really
a dick.
This actually brings me to a pretty interesting thing. I was linked by this guy at Glass Paper on Twitter, made this for stuff or something. He linked an interview with the creator of Shield Bro, and it's got some interesting insight into like this stuff on Naofumi. So to get the creator's perspective on it, I forget what the pen name is. Aneko Usagi, right? And so one of the questions that was asked by this was by One Piece Books, the English publisher. They asked the question, like, Naofumi displays conflicting moral tones. He seems considerate yet often crass at the same time, to downright immoral as well, with his laissez-faire attitude towards slavery. Can you explain your intention by creating a character with rapidly wavering moral tones? And so the way he describes Naofumi, here, I'll just read it to you. It says, I think of Naofumi as being like a mirror. He responds to kindness with kindness and to evil with evil. Like a shard from a broken mirror, he has some pointy edges, but in the end, he's a sympathetic character who cares for others. As for purchasing a slave, he was forced to do it because of his situation. He needed help from others in a time and place where no one would help him. In the modern world, where people are moved and controlled by money, company employees have a lot in common with slaves. Okay, ignore that last line. That's fine and all. But he's just making a point. It was funny that he would make that point. But like his point, he's just saying that, and this was affirming, and I appreciated this, that he's just saying that obviously everything we've said has been relatively accurate. Naofumi would never have done this stuff if he had any choice in the matter. It's just that he was placed in a situation where he had no other options, and he had to do this, not even for his own benefit, but like to do the fucking job that he's been forced to do against his will, or else, you know, everyone, including him, would face death. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe that was pretty obvious, but it's nice to hear it affirmed by the author himself or herself. I don't know. I still think it's a guy. That's where I'm putting my money. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I don't have any other... I don't remember anything else except that I am excited to see the Curse series.
Yes. That's where we'll be seeing things going next time. Hopefully.
Hell yeah. What you got any more notes?
There's only one last point I wanted to go back to briefly, which was just that in seeing the other heroes responding at the very end when we see Mine cheated, nobody says anything, but they do speak up. I mean, it was very vindicating. And, I said a bunch before on that, but it was interesting to see how the spear hero was not in their camp, and I don't even want to criticize him that much, because this was one facet that's obviously a major part of the whole narrative here. But again, I was watching very carefully of Mine at the beginning of the episode as she's orchestrating this duel to happen at all, and the way that she's. God, this made me so fucking mad. These fucking roasties, dude. It's just not even that she tells Spearman that he's got a slave, Naofumi, obviously instigating the duel. It's that she encourages him using her sexuality specifically, and I feel that that's. There was a couple places where she physically grinds up on the Spearman, and I feel that this is why I don't want to even be too hard on Spearman, because I feel like he's being deliberately manipulated. This is why I call him a useful idiot, by the weaponized femininity, the toxic femininity of Mine.
Not that it's okay to be that fucking stupid.
But I mean, there's degrees here of responsibility. Mine is obviously quite high, in league with the king, trying to make these things happen. This guy, his good nature is being
a conspiracy behind what's happening.
Absolutely, but he is
not the guy who is behind any of this. Left to his own devices, none of this would have happened.
Exactly. It's his. This is the thing. People with good intentions, and your white knights of the world, and your, I don't know, a lot of people who think they're being virtuous. Like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and to see. This is why I'm so convinced this is written by
I'm thinking of the knight character from Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, Steiner.
Yeah,
sure,
Steiner.
Sure.
He's kind of the same kind of useful idiot.
Steiner's a man who will sometimes forsake what is right or wrong for the sake of fulfilling his duty. And, is that the right thing to do at given times? I guess
his
that's
duty
a complicated
based
question.
Entirely on his own, because that's the thing. You could say it's your sense of duty, but duty to who? You made that up.
Yeah.
Even if it was engendered in you by other people, it's not an inherent thing to have duty to this person, which is kind of, I think, what he has to learn in that game.
I mean, I honestly think he represents in the story, basically just white knights. He represents that useful, manipulated, masculine trait to want to defend women who, claim to be victimized, and maybe they are. A
positive trait that can be easily turned into a bad
and that's why
you being too stupid.
My biggest virtue in life is truth. And to see Bowman and Swordman, they could have been white knights too, but they saw what happened, and they aren't blinded by lust or whatever, like Speared Man. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming he is blinded by lust and just giving Mine the benefit of the doubt. They are critical viewers, and they see no, there's something wrong here. We're not just gonna let this go. We have to find the truth, because if you arrest just someone for a crime because whatever you think he fits the profile and it's wrong, you just want someone to be convicted or whatever, the real criminal's still out there. So they're just gonna, you're leaving the world open to more suffering and torment and whatnot. And that's why truth is the most important virtue, and you gotta pursue it above all else. That's what I think anyway. So it's good to see, and it makes me happy. And so I'm excited to see more of that.
Myself, you know what I'm saying?
I feel you, dog. All right, I'm done. That's all I got.
One more thing, the music. There was some great music in this episode, as well as one somewhat questionable choice towards the end. I don't know if you laughed at it.
I didn't notice anything particularly bad. Might just gone over my head though.
Well, there's so early. I really thought the music that starts when the fight between Shield and Spear Hero.
Did you think that sounded like David Bowie's Black Star? Because that's what I thought big time. That's what it sounded like.
I'd have to listen to it again, but I mean it. The funny thing about you saying that is that what it reminded me of was the Mars Volta, which when I first heard Black Star also reminded me of the Mars Volta.
Fair enough.
But I think it's just a Latin jazz influence in general.
It's dope.
But the song that plays during the credits and towards the end of the episode has some kind of hilarious English lyrics, well sung, good song, but the lyrics were kind of hilarious.
I totally missed it. Went over my head, I guess.
Yeah, it was just because it's got one of those moments where the character stopped talking and the vocals cut through perfectly clean, but she's singing some weird thing about the the ocean. It just like it was like instant English, and
Yeah.
even though she's a good singer, it's always funny the first time you hear an English song.
That's
you know?
absolutely true. Oh shit! I've got okay. One last point. My last point. Okay, did you notice? So after the whole emotional climax, and like like she's cradling him in her arms or whatever, he's cradling her or whatever, and he like falls asleep. This fucking Nibba sleeps in the center of that courtyard. We see it's the next day. He wakes up in that same spot. He slept there in this. He didn't even go to a fucking bed. He just passed out, and Raftalia didn't move him anywhere. They were in that courtyard until the next morning. I checked the manga. It's a little ambiguous, but like it doesn't specifically say that. So they chose just have him fucking sleep in this courtyard all damn night. What's up with that? That's weird.
I didn't notice whatever you're talking about.
He
Like,
just
this
he
is the end of
slept
the
in a
episode?
courtyard for all night. Okay, you know what? Doesn't matter. I thought it was funny.
I
The
guess he
viewers
was
can be their
tired.
own judge.
All right, I guess that's it.
That's it.
See you guys next week. Hopefully closer to on time.
Indeed.
I don't know if you even have realized when this show airs yet. I mean,
I
find
haven't
out
yet, but
just
I'll figure it
because
out.
As soon as an episode comes out, people message me on Twitter. You guys got to message Nate. Nate's
that's
the one
true.
who's hard to get a hold of. I'm just here.
Hard to get a hold of. What are you talking
Well,
about?
compared to me, because you work, so it's like
Oh, sure. I guess.
I could be any time from 4 a.m. until now. I would have been available to do this podcast.
Okay,
know,
all right.
but, like,
Until we are doing it perfectly on time, I guess. Okay, fine. You can at me. Don't go crazy about it, people. And once we've got it figured out, stop adding me about it. All right,
Yeah.
I will have figured it out. So don't fucking flood my.
You'll
ads.
probably figure it out after the next one. Like
Yeah,
as soon as someone says, "Hey, at Best Guy Ever,"
Yeah, then
the
I'll
new
know.
episode is out.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you'll
Okay,
be like,
you've got-
okay,
you can do it
that
for the
is
next episode.
exactly when it comes out.
I will give you
is
for
when
exactly
guy
this
messaged me.
next episode 5. You can at me. Don't do it after that, or I will be furious.
But you have to at him at the exact within
Right.
5 minutes of the subs coming out.
Yes.
That way,
correct.
Nate can look at the time code on your tweet and know the exact moment subs are available.
Good idea.
I mean,
That's a good
tag
plan.
both of us so I can know that.
And
too,
you know,
but I usually
it's
figure
Monday
this out.
today. I bet it comes out like I don't know Thursday or something. So we'll keep a fucking eyes on it.
I don't think it was that many days ago, was it?
I think it was quite a couple of days. I don't know. I didn't check.
All
Okay,
right,
whatever.
well,
We'll figure it
that's
out. All right. Bye.
Bye.